I've talked about how Sony's censorship policy just made them more Nintendo than Nintendo themselves in 2 of my previous videos, and ever since then we have some more relevant news to talk about. The biggest one for me was Dead or Alive Xtreme 3 Scarlet, in which the PS4 version essentially removes certain items that allow you to take off some of the fighter swimsuits, just in case they're not fan service enough for you. Scarlet is the updated version of the game, and the non-updated version of the game on the PS4 version actually have those respective items. So in other words, the updated version gives you some, but also takes them away from you. It's the same pattern that we already know from the past few videos. Is there really anything different? Well, sort of. For one, I got more new patrons. Huge thanks to Yoko Rose, TKI Ultima, and Julian Malavi for the pledges on Patreon. You guys are fantastic. If you want, you can support my channel for just $1 a month on Patreon, link down below. But for real though, there are definitely other new things to talk about. Sony's Japan president said that the new censorship policies on the fan service games are to meet global standards. To suggest that California's moralizing standards is representative of the global standards is one of the most laughable concepts that I've ever heard. I also really like these global standards. It is perfectly fine for us to have a game where we can shoot people, rob people, and most horrifying of all, I don't know, pick one. But God forbid that we have fan service oriented games with all of the content uncensored and unchanged. Going more into the detail, and we reveal an even worse argument. According to the president Atsushi Morita, regarding the balance of the freedom of expression and safety for children, it's a tough problem to deal with. Ah yes, because all of these fan service games and visual novels are totally for children, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm so glad that Sony's censorship policies protect those children from those evil and demonic fan service anime games. Anime is the devil's spawn after all. Now if you excuse me, I'll let my children to participate in Battle Royale for the next 6 hours to the point of getting them to rehab. People keep sending me this piece of news from Sony's president, and honestly, this doesn't feel like a confirmation of anything because the answer that the president gave sounds incredibly generic. It's not the real answer to the situation, it's just an answer that he said so that we can just shut up and accept it. I don't even think he knows about the scale of censorship or the types of games that are being censored. He just answered it for the sake of answering it. Unfortunately, we're not accepting that lazy and generic answer, and if we're not getting anything from Sony, then it's about as good a time as any to move on to the PC Master Race or buy a Nintendo Switch, a much better console anyway. Another thing that people wanted me to talk about was that petition from my last video. So one of the partners of Marvelous Entertainment, the developers of Senran Kagura, made a petition to call out Sony and their new policies. When I uploaded that video, that petition got around 2,000 people who signed. Those who wanted to sign the petition can absolutely do so by clicking the link in the bottom. The suspicious thing about the petition is it used to be around 11,000 people who signed, but 3,000 signatures disappeared, so let's see if we can make it to be more than that. But regardless of that, this petition seems to have an impact. The creator of the petition got in contact with Sony, who said that he's gonna be meeting with Sony UK of all branches next week. While they can't exactly fix the problem at hand since they're not authorized to change anything, they are able to get in touch with the HQ. Will anything actually come out of this? I don't really know, and I find it incredibly doubtful that they will change their policies after this discussion. If they did, then Sony just wasted a lot of game developers' time in delaying their games for the sake of censoring it. Let me preface this video by saying that while I do talk about these games a lot, to be honest, I'm not really a fan of them. I'm no fan of Dead or Alive Xtreme or Senran Kagura or any of the visual novels that got censored. These games don't really appeal to me. But being a fan of these games is irrelevant. The censorship of these games on this platform is downright ridiculous. It does absolutely nothing good to Sony. If I showed this to people, they would definitely prefer the Nintendo Switch version. It does nothing for business other than pleasing a bunch of normies from the PS4 subreddit who consider these games freaky, rapey, weeboo garbage. Trust me, don't post my video there. Somebody did and they had a serious migraine reading the replies. It doesn't matter if these games don't appeal to me. What matters is there are people who find these games appealing to them and they want to buy these games with their hard-earned cash. Are you gonna hamper their fun just because you don't find the games appealing to you or even offensive to you? Are you the sort of person who cares more about shoving your morals down our throat instead of selling video games and making profit? Do you want to go to the Battlefield 5 route? And that's the end of our talk about Sony. This video isn't about Sony. I think this knowledge has been very well known. Instead, this video is gonna talk about other platforms that, while technically miles better, is still making some really dodgy moves. Let's talk about a game called The Key to Home. I don't really know what this game is about, but what I do know is that it's a mystery visual novel and it has lowly characters as their main stars. This game got blocked on Steam for sexually suggestive content twice, and Steam basically said that the core audience for this game is pedophiles. Now, due to the nature of visual novels being used as a medium for dating sims that contain sex scenes between you and your choice of characters, it's safe to say that people are going to assume that you're going to do lewd things to these kids. But the problem is, not only that this game doesn't have lewd content, but the game is officially rated T by the ESRB. So this is in no way, shape, or form a harmful game at all. And this game should be approved on Steam, and yet they didn't approve this game. And the reason? Well, there are two factors. The first one is the publisher, or the developer. Either one, they are not very good at English. Basically, they sold this game by giving the game's description something along the lines of, "This is a mystery visual novel for every gentleman and gentlewoman who love little girls." Yeah, that got lost in translation. And the second factor is apparently due to a rogue Valve employee who keeps disapproving this game for some reason. There was a time where the game was approved for release, but it got banned again. From what I've seen, this is a mystery visual novel. It's not really a dating sim where you could just straight up screw the girls, and considering that this game is rated T, I have absolutely no idea why Valve would disapprove these sorts of games when they also have tons and tons of games that let you abuse kids. Hell, the game that I played the most for pretty much an entire week, Hitman 2, can be turned into a mass shooting simulator. You're discouraged to go guns blazing, but the option is definitely there. Now, Steam once promised that they're not gonna be the police for your content. They're gonna release pretty much all sorts of games as long as it's not trolling or it's not illegal. I've talked about this in another video. The problem with that is, anti-lolis are not part of their requirements. So what's the change of heart here? The thing is, Steam unknowingly approves games that have loli characters that you can date. A game that I actually bought on Steam, If My Heart Had Wings, has loli twins as 2 available romance options. You can only get them by the end of the game after you finish almost all of the routes, but they are definitely options. And for the record, you can uncensor this game and add the hentai content within it. Valve is rather inconsistent with their policies for the hentai loli content. If Nekopara can be on Steam, if My Heart Had Wings can be on Steam, then why can't these other games be on Steam? And those are not just the only examples of games that Valve inexplicably refused to release. There's also a game called Imolicious, which is not only banned from Steam, but also from Nutaku because the game contains incest elements, and that's not okay according to them. The developer even had their account banned for once, but restored because apparently it was just a mistake. 2 more games come in at the time of writing this video. The first episode of a game called Crosslove was banned from Steam because of child exploitation. According to the developer Top Hat Studios, the email that he received said, "We won't be able to ship your title because it features themes of child exploitation," even though the characters of the game are above the age of 18. And even if they aren't, they're freaking high schoolers. We abuse high schoolers all the time in fiction. Granted, high schoolers can behave like children these days, but they are not children. Your mental gymnastics won't work here. Oh, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. If you thought that it's gonna stop there, it doesn't stop there. Another visual novel, Hello Goodbye, was banned on Steam, despite the game being censored with them having an uncensored patch later on. Maomao Discovery Team is a lowly game that also got banned on Steam. Another game, The Last Girl, was banned on Steam. Although with Maomao and The Last Girl, I find them quite special because looking at the 2 games in other websites revealed that they are pretty freaking hardcore in terms of content. And with all of those news, it led me into this conclusion. There are games that Valve would definitely accept, like your Senran Kaguras or Nekoparas, but if you're making visual novels that are, well, hardcore, Valve probably wouldn't let you in, which means that you're not gonna get any sorts of exposure. And even if your content isn't questionable and definitely safe for work, there are chances where Steam would just go rogue at you and not approve your content. The word questionable here implies a lot of connotations, and it's incredibly subjective, which is why you shouldn't have rogue employees that don't know what they're doing to go berserk at these games. Steam is definitely miles better than the PS4 in terms of distributing anime-related content, but it doesn't always make them the perfect platform to go for all of you people who develop visual novels. You can test your waters on Steam, but the results are probably not gonna be what you expected. It's not gonna work all the time, but considering that the game censored on the PS4 would be uncensored on the Steam release, it's safe to say that it works most of the time. The point of this video is to illustrate that the censorship on the PS4 does happen, and it's going to happen to a lot of anime games. Marvelous Games themselves stated that their latest Senran Kagura game could be halted due to Sony's inspections. Developing these games on the PC and the Switch are definitely better to guarantee that they're going to be released at their uncensored forms. But obviously, they're not perfect. You just need a good platform that will accept your kinds of games, and Steam could be one of them, but it's really hard to say that you're gonna have a smooth ride in it. So to all developers of hentai games, you can try your luck on Steam, but it's best for you to just stick to other websites that will definitely say your games at its uncensored form.